Hey everyone, can you hear me well?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Awesome. Welcome to All Devs 27. It's amazing to have you guys. I think we are more and more numerous in this chat room, which feels great. So yeah, maybe we can have note takers for this session. I will pick someone arbitrarily, or does anyone want to take note, or is in good condition to take notes? Um, Otherwise, Kevin from Autark, can you take notes? Um, if Kevin's not answering, then Chad maybe.
Yeah, I can. Sorry,
Cool. All
I
right,
responded
amazing,
in the chat. Yeah.
great. And maybe then Chad, can you help him doing that?
Sure.
Awesome. Do you guys have the link for the notes in the you can see it in the chat.
Yep, we
Yes.
got it.
Awesome. Then let's start. Um, if there's anyone new on the chat, by the way, anyone like doing his first or her first all devs today, it would be nice to have an introduction from you guys. Um, but if that's not the case,
Yeah, there's definitely at least, I think, one person new. So we have Ale from Aragon 1, who's
oh, awesome. Yeah, so Ale, I don't know if you would be comfortable to introduce yourself now, or otherwise we can probably wait until the next all devs, as you want.
No, sure. Can you hear me?
Yep, definitely.
Okay, so I'm doing my second week on Aragon 1. I I used to work for like 2 years in Zeppelin, and I'm very interested in the stuff you're doing. So here I am.
Welcome. That's great to have you here, and super happy to hear that you're joining Aragon One. That's an awesome team, of course. Great. Then maybe we can move on to the updates and then start with Aragon One. For approximately 5 minutes update.
Yeah, I can give a quick update. So I think pretty much same as last time. Yeah, we've been mostly just focused on 0.8 and all the things surrounding that. Aragon UI has been published on NPM under the next track. One second, Lewis, you may want to look at the notes here. It says it might not be.
Yeah, that's why I'm just looking at that now, and nobody's taking. Maybe I will link it again, guys. In chat because oh sorry guys for that. I will change that right away. Um, yeah, sorry. All right, should be better now, guys. Yeah, I think it's okay. Okay, sorry, guys, go ahead, Brett.
All right, sweet. Thanks for fixing that, Lewis. Or Louis. Yeah, so the main things, I guess, from the highlights from the last couple of weeks is that Aragon UI now is published on NPM. We have been migrating our own app, or the Aragon apps, core apps, to this new design system. So far, we have gone through the token manager and finance. Both of them are looking really, really great. I think it only took, I mean, the delta in time was quite good to get them started. It took a few days to get them all perfectly ready, but I think within the day, at least for the token manager, which is the simplest app, it was like 6 to 8 hours and it looked pretty much done on a desktop view. And then it took a few more days for the responsiveness, and finance now I think has been 3 or so days, and it's also looking really, really good already, just given the components that are available inside Aragon UI. So if you have a chance to get started on that, it's a good time to start, and then let us know if there's any other components, or if there's like some components, not all the components are fully moved over yet. So we'd love to get help with that too. If you're using a component that's not migrated over yet, it's a good chance to send pull requests to get them to use the new theming system or update the styles slightly. I believe mocks for those are also available, but I would have to find a Figma link if you're interested in that. So ping us on Rocket Chat or something like that if that's interesting. The other things that have been going on are mostly to do with, I guess, the contracts for 0.8. The templates are being rewritten, and Factory has been mostly doing that. So they're currently still moving through, but we basically have a new base template to use to make it a little bit easier for other templates to kind of build the same kind of logic that we have inside those templates. Previously, the DAO kits repo was like put together a little bit quickly and running on a number of scripts that weren't very robust. And Factory has done a great job now moving it through to a much polished version. We've taken the chance to now officially move everything over to the templates nomenclature. So there's no more notion of kits anymore. It's just organization templates. And so we renamed that repo as well, the DAO templates. And we will be shipping with 0.8 3 relatively similar templates to what we currently have. They're just better named and will like be shown better in the UI as the specific use cases you may want to use them in. So yeah, you can go check out the repo DAO templates, Aragon/DAO templates to see what's going on there. It's under the next branch because we still need to get them audited before we do deployments on real networks. Aside from that, not much has really changed on the Aragon API side. I want to get back into making stability changes for that so we can hopefully get a more stable version 2 locked down for the release date of 0.8, but that's still kind of in limbo. Yeah, and otherwise, I think Jorge or Bingen, we can discuss the court.
Yeah. So court-wise, we've made these past few weeks. We're at the point that the main features are now implemented. So we're close to we're like feature complete with what it's on the white paper. We're doing like the final like kind of moving some stuff around to the architecture of the contract, and also making sure we can properly deploy it under the EIP 170 limit. That's looking good, and this next few weeks we're gonna be focusing a lot on the testing. That is a part that, given all the moving pieces, we haven't been doing putting a lot of effort on that. So that should be coming soon, and with that, we're gonna make the system more and more robust. Also looking into the bonding curve part of that for converting ANT into the core token. That should also happen in the next week, this week. And that's all. I don't know if anyone wants to remark anything else.
No, not really. Pretty good summary. I think we already spent over 5 minutes, so it's okay.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you very much. Then let's move on and maybe we can have Autark updating us on what's been happening in the past 2 weeks.
Yep. So currently the team's working on a modified version of the client to demo profiles and the dynamic home app. There's a minimum goal of having the profiles in a demoable state from our Autark demo client URL before Wednesday, going into the vote. Ideally, we'll also have a functional version of deep linking integrated into this demo, but that's lower priority, so it might not make it into this version. And John can give more details on the profile side of that. The audit engagement has continued. We just handed over projects and have received initial feedback on both rewards and address book. And those changes have been integrated into the contracts and are ready for re-review from the audit team. We've finalized dynamic forwarding for our expanded forwarder options initiative, except for minor cleanup. And the related changes to dot voting have been made. We should be handing that over to A1 for initial feedback mid-week in the hopes of confirming at least the interfaces before we hand off dot voting for the audit. So be on the lookout for that. For discussions, base functionality is finished. John's currently looking into potentially going in the direction of developing node modules to ease developer tension there, and I'll hand it over to him for more details on that. In response to the Aragon UI work A1's doing, we've delayed the upgrade process for our applications right now, the new design system. That's something that we'll be reprioritizing after AGP 19 ends, so we'll probably be looking into that like around mid-August. So in terms of like the feedback you were requesting, we probably won't have anything until around then. And our priorities going forward are continued work on the audit engagement and collecting loose ends on AGP 19 so that we can go into the next cycle, ideally, with a clean start. And I'll pass it off to John for more details on the things I mentioned.
Yeah, hey, hang on, clearing my throat. Okay, okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So with profiles, the profiles themselves are looking and working pretty well. So the integration is kind of just that one piece of unknown. Right now in the client that Arthur had referenced, I implemented profiles as a system app where you can really just look at your own profile. And if you wanted to look at someone else's, before deep linking, you would just navigate to a different URL manually, just like paste the Ethereum address string to the end of the URL. Not ideal, but it will work for now. So yeah, and just sort of on that note, we can follow up on this separately, but it'd be great to keep the conversation going about resolving addresses and 3box. I'm just like a little hazy on where things stand with that, and just want to make sure we're all like our expectations and responsibilities are coordinated. With discussions, there's a few open PRs related to external transaction intents that I'd love to keep trying to get merged. They're both working well, and they're relatively small, I think. So it shouldn't be, I don't think, a huge undertaking to review those. I'd also be happy to jump on a call with anyone and do it together, like pair programming style review, if that saved anyone time or made anything easy. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I ran into some really frustrating, actually a few of us did, issues with running a bunch of local repositories, which we finally figured out was like an old version of the wrapper with a new version of the client, and or vice versa. I don't know, but yeah, that's all sorted out, and that's it. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks a lot, John, and thanks Arthur for the updates for both Autark and Open Work Labs. Yeah, we can go on and have maybe Mesh update us if Gabby or Daniel is there.
Yeah, okay. Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yep.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Okay, in the previous 2 weeks, we've been cleaning up the new IPFS command and added some documentation about it. We also fixed the ABAC that prevent to install the CLI with Yarn, and now that's also possible. We also include a new global option to configure the gas price in the CLI. We also create a CLI util package to remove some of the duplicates files across all the package and to prepare for breaking down the CLI into smaller packages. We also have a work in progress to update the scripts on Arash to include in the snapshot the Aragon client, the new templates that Brett discussed earlier, and likely also the Open Enterprise as well. Our current priorities for the next 2 weeks are making the version 6 as stable and publishing the new docs to the Hack website. We also are going to work to the version 7, trying to remove some of the deprecated options that was already not used anymore, like the network and the Aragon init command. We are also going to update the boilerplates to use the new templates and also allow the configure the CLI within the Arab JSON, like for example the gas price or the default environment or the APM timeouts. We are also trying to start refactoring the code to move towards the Aragon CLI extensions. And on a side note, also Daniel is going to take vacations. So yeah, that's the update. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Gabby. Thanks a lot for this update. And let's move on to Aragon Black then.
Yep. One. So on Aragon Black side, so basically we've pushed most of the pull requests to respond to the security audit. Like for the pool and the tap, it's done. I'm still ending up updating the batch system to the new architecture, which will make everything smoother and easier to control. Actually, the smart contract side is almost done. I'm just trying to update all the tests, which is a little bit cumbersome because it's basically rewriting the same thing with a different flow. So yes, doing that. So it should be done by the end of the week. The idea is that by the end of the week, we can send back the new batching system to the audit. And yeah, that's it. So on the front end side, the front end is now updated to match the new design system, and the background scripts are mostly written. So the idea is that by the end of the week, once I'm done with the smart contract, we can have some kind of a live working session with Xavier to basically just update the background script to match the new batching system. And mostly everything is gonna be done, kind of. So we just have to wait the second feedback of the audit, and it should be okay. I also lost a little bit of time because of a tricky Bancor formula issue. Actually, while doing some tests and trying to figure out how the curve will behave while the pool will be emptied by the tap, we figured out that the Bancor formula actually reverts in some situation, even though it's supposed not to, because the input parameters are normal. So I had a chat with the guys from Bancor who told me that yeah, actually the way they wrote the formula is like it's supposed to give you some good output in all situations where the output is like reasonable. It's not super easy to know what reasonable mean. And actually they don't even know themselves. There's no deterministic way to figure out when the formula will revert and when it won't. So yeah, it's like on super particular edge cases. And I had some talk with a guy from Bancor. So basically we're going to be able to find some tweaks to mostly make it so that there is really almost no chance that this happen. So yeah, but I lost some time because of that. And yes, so the goal is to say normally during the next dev call, everything should be almost set up. And so the idea will be that by the middle of August, before the middle of August, we can release the Rinkaby version of fundraising. We still have to figure out how we do with the kit. I talked about it a little bit with Brett. I have to see if we can use a new base template that they've been providing. We still have the issue that in the current situation, we definitely can't deploy the whole DAO and all the application in one transaction because it's way too more gas. So yes, the last thing to figure out will be how do we upgrade the kit to the new template system. And yeah, I've always have the Rinkaby release before the middle of August, and maybe it's not sure yet, but there may be an opportunity to actually present fundraising during DAPCon in Berlin. So yeah, if it could be released on Linkable, it could be cool. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Olivier, and good job dealing with the Banco formula problems, I guess. And good luck. A quick update from the Aragon Association this week. First, we approved two new grants last week in the NEST program. One is One Hive, led by the One Hive team, and basically implements Moloch DAO game theoretical setting using Aragon tools and modularity, which is very interesting and gives like new capabilities to the organization, to the standard Moloch template using Aragon modularities, and it's extending the Moloch use case to more things, and basically creating a new type of organization that was called by the One Hive team Dandelion organizations, which is pretty exciting. And a second NEST grant, which plans on natively integrating, um, sorry, it's Olivier making me laugh. Natively integrating Uniswap and Compound as apps in Aragon DAOs are usable by all Aragon users, and that's a use case that we want to explore, like native integrations and how we can integrate with other ecosystems, including these great DeFi protocols. And I would also want to mention something about working groups. So we're really close to disclosing the official launch of working groups. We know that several working groups are explicitly existing to date, and they will obviously arise around different topics such as communications, strategy, documentation, product, and research. The two latter, the two last ones that I mentioned, so product and research, we're still kind of looking for people who would be eager to volunteer to kickstart these groups. Um, so there's not much to do in order to start a working group, and we can get in touch. We're just trying to establish a standard with John from A1 to to kind of formalize how one can launch a working group, and what are the best practices. And one of them is that probably we would be proposing or suggesting rotating admins in working groups. So basically, you would have one or two person each week taking the lead in managing the chat over the working group, probably like administrating the calls of this working group if the working group decides to have calls, and things like that. And so we were looking for people to be the first admins of the product and research working group. So, I mean, yeah, if you're eager to hear more, it shouldn't be like a heavy process and pretty easy to do, but we're just like, yeah, looking for someone to do that with us. For two people at least. Last thing, we went is in Zog last week, and basically worked on AGPs and the AGP process overall. And finally, I'm bringing up again that will be, several Aragon contributors will be meeting in Berlin for Blockchain Week, end of August. And so don't hesitate to ping me about that. There's a chat in the Aragon Rocket chat called Berlin, where you can find information, and I will provide more. So basically, the idea is just to meet and really share, have dinner together, have some fun together, talk about Aragon as community members, and really have fun. So I will give you more updates about that later. Yeah. So enough for the association's kind of updates. which is yeah, done. So we can go on and go and start discussions. I think it's like the agenda is not too packed for today on with discussions. We can maybe start with one discussion, which is about teams owning GitHub repositories. This is a topic that came up on call with Flock team leaders mostly. Where we were sharing and chatting around how to organize best as Flock teams, and basically we were it was brought by several members on the call, that it could be interesting to create ownerships for different repos in Aragon repos, and so basically teams can have ownership or like their repo and manage review and merge the PRs, and we can create processes um, so other teams can make requests to these given teams to when it comes to changing something in the repo or collaborating on something in this given repo. This is a discussion that I would like to have you guys for example, I don't know who would be uh, eager to jump in on that. I'd like to understand if there's some appetite to have that implemented, and I guess that, um, for example, Brett and maybe Yalda, as you were on the call, you guys have um, uh, some background thought on that. But overall, like, if anyone sees interest and wants to comment, would be interesting to have feedback. And maybe like adding maybe Brett, if you want to um, clarify, but if I'm not very clear on how this should work, maybe you can clarify a few things.
Yeah, I can definitely provide some more context and background on this as well. So the Aragon organization on GitHub is very Aragon 1 centric, just because that was the repo we were using before we did this whole split, and it's always been the project's repo. Now, we have transitioned the GitHub organization into one that does not have any private repos, primarily for the sake of adding as many seats as we'd like, I think. So with that said, it's like this organization on GitHub is meant to kind of house all of the official / shared repositories across the whole project, Flock teams, Nest teams, etc. And it does have like certain things like CI and other accounts attached onto it for the projects that live inside this GitHub organization. Now, one thing that has been on my to-do list but has been slipping all the time when I move things up and down the priority list is assigning more specifically the ownership rights as well as the default permissions. One thing that is particularly kind of bad, I guess, right now about the GitHub organization is that the default permissions are quite open, and I've always wanted to like go through and like kind of audit them a little bit and also make it less permissive than they currently are. If we are going to add as many people as we'd like, in the case of like a Flock team joining, if all of their members join, it's going to be slightly different than how it currently is now. There are also the concepts of like code owners and other GitHub kind of artifacts that they can use to manage the governance of the repo itself. And this is specifically very important to do. So it's more clear exactly who has responsibility, who gets assigned the reviewer status, and things like that. So these are all topics that we can discuss now, and it's a question as well of like appetite. Do Flock teams and Nest teams want this elevated permission, this responsibility? Do they want to be part of the organization as a whole? On GitHub, obviously. So yeah.
Thanks a lot, Brett, for these clarifications. Yeah, on my side, I mean, if I don't know if anyone wants to comment, but I think that's a topic to have in mind. Even if we don't really come to a decision today, when you like in your daily work, how we want to see things evolving in terms of the organization and basically the organization's GitHub repos. Um, and also, if we see that, because there's like philosophical background to the question, and there's also like being pragmatic, like would it help being more efficient and have more accountability and ownership on the on the work that we and that you guys ship every day, every week, every month. So yeah, does anyone want to add something?
Yeah, maybe Olivier speaking. I don't know, just to give my opinion that I think there is the problem or the issue of the discussion of ownership, like who formally owns what in the stack, just to like ease the update of the stack and who we have to get in touch with to update some part of the stack and stuff like that. And then there is this issue of where does the code lie? I know that I've been asking myself the question lots of time for the fundraising stuff, because now it's in the Aragon Black Organization. To be honest, I think it would make more sense to have it hosted on the Aragon Organization, just so that people can find it easily, like they are looking for Aragon fundraising and they just end up on the Aragon repo. Obviously, we started it in our own organization because it was way easier to set the permission, the pull request review and stuff like that. Maybe at some point it will make sense to just fork it and merge it into the Aragon organization, though I mean there's no rush on our side. If it must wait a couple of months for Brett to basically handle all the permission and clean everything, it's okay for us. I mean, it's like
Yeah, I guess one good thing is, or one good question is, what particular repos would we like to see in the Aragon organization? And this is mostly kind of a question for other teams. Like, what do you think feels right to be inside there? And I agree, fundraising could be one of them. We could even do it now. It's not so much of a blocker generally. Having more permissions is just better because we can't have like 150 people having delete access on every repo possible.
All right, then if we're fine for now on this discussion, I invite you guys to keep thinking about that. If it's necessary, also I will probably create a discussion on the forum to let everyone share thoughts on the topic, summing up what was said here. If you think that that would be helpful to think about this type of topics, I probably do that. And then we can move on to the next topic, which is Aragon PM instances. I don't know who added this one. So
Yeah, I think it was Brett, but it was something I would like to bring up to the teams
great.
that would like to include an instance of an app to the Aragon snapshot. I was thinking maybe for sure Open Enterprise is there to being able to add it. Not sure about Pando and fundraising, but I was wondering if the teams would like to have their own registrar, or should we use like the main Aragon PM .eth domain.
Yeah, this is kind of a question that came from that in terms of how do we set this up in AirGen, but it's also kind of a good high-level question to have in this call. It relates as well to the Aragon GitHub organization, and it's something that we should decide together as Flock teams, how we see the official Aragon PM.eth instance on mainnet particularly, but also Rinkeby. How do we feel about using it? What the governance structure should be, at least for now, if not into the future. Does it make sense to instead name scope everything to like altar.aragonpm.eth, aragonblack.aragonpm.eth, these types of questions?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think maybe the question will be about how flexible it makes things with respect to publishing updates. Because the way I got it right now, Aragon PM.eth is going to be like verified and requires multiple signatures to actually push updates, which may make sense when it comes to publishing some kind of like smart contract update and version, major version. But sometimes I was thinking about it for fundraising, and I'm like, okay, if we publish it and figure out there is a small bug in the front end, and we just want to push a React, a small React update, does it make sense to have to basically ping everyone in the Aragon network to say, hey, guy, can you sign the transaction to publish and stuff like that? What do you guys think?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to don't have an overhead in all the network to have voting for every update in the contract.
Right. So something that we can, so one degree of freedom we have with the Aragon PM instances is that we can have different permission holders for who can create a repo and who can create versions in repos. So one thing that we've discussed internally at Aragon 1 is that perhaps right now only the association should be able to create repos on the main Aragon PM.eth instance, and it would give those permissions, or it would rather grant the create version role on each repo to the team that was responsible for it, or perhaps to multiple teams that they were all responsible for it, or some DAO or something like that. But basically, we can do that, right? We can say the association has the keys at the end of the day. It can grant them to other teams so that they can make upgrades as they like. And if something happens to a team, they can revoke them or give them to other people, or change the addresses as they need to be. But that creates basically the burden of responsibility on the association.
And is there any way in the ACL permissions to have some kind of parameterization about maybe the permissions is going to be different depending on if it's a major version or a minor version?
There is no way to do that yet. Yeah, the repos do not have parameterizations based on the version.
Okay, got it.
All right. Then I guess, does anyone want to add something on that?
Yeah, about the specific in the Aragon for snapshots in Aragon, I would like also to ask the authority if there is some branch they would like to use for the apps specifically.
Yeah, so it's sort of like a difficult time just because a lot of them are like mid-change. So the contract changes that we made don't have corresponding front ends. So you'd have to be using the last round of apps, which I believe are the ones that are on staging. But I can get you ideally I can get you specific branches that should be stable. It should
Okay.
be the master or dev generally.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think the audit changes, all the audit changes should be in a separate branch. So dev should be stable for that. But like
Nice.
those will be changing in like the next 2 to 3 weeks, I would say. Not
Perfect.
stable, but those will be the ones that we want to be serving. And then I guess just on the PM instance thing, I think it makes sense to keep the general pattern where the Aragon apps repo is directly mapping to what's published on aragonpm.eth, at least in the short term, before some sort of like governance structure is created. So for that reason, I think that the sub makes sense. I don't know if people think that correlation is important to maintain or not, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it depends how we go about doing this. Like, I'm not actually sure where we're going to publish the fundraising apps. But probably just aragonpm.eth, unless we want to make a Aragon block .aragonpm.eth.
To be honest, on my side, I'm not sure I have a strong opinion on this. I don't know. I think it should be some kind of an all-dev call decision. I mean, I'm okay if it goes on a black.aragonpm.eth package manager. Maybe also it could make sense to have it in the overall. I mean, this is more of a generic decision, like what do we decide should be. Like, do we decide every Flock app should go on aragonpm.eth, or do we make so that, okay, now there are multiple Flock teams, so we can go for a specific Aragon PM registry for each team because it will make things easier from a governance perspective or something. To be honest, I don't really have a strong opinion on it. I don't know what you guys feel will be the most tedious thing to know. My point will be that maybe for developers who are like trying precisely to test app in thanks to the Aragon stuff like that, maybe if we start having like 2 or 3 or 5 different registries in the end because there are tons of Flock team, it will make it super difficult for people to actually remember and figure out where the fuck is the application they want to install. So maybe I'm thinking in the long run it will make more sense to put everything in the same registry. But maybe there are good reasons not to do so. I don't know.
And for that reason, I think I like the one-layer approach. And we can use like namespaces for things in beta or like things that maybe don't fit the project's criteria. I mean, on that, the criteria is a good question too. It's like, it's not super clear what exactly it would mean elevating an app to Aragon PM yet, but I would assume that at the very least, it's almost like a proclamation. It's like the association has vetted them. Of course, they've been audited or whatnot. Their security is fairly tight, and their front end is generally polished for a good audience. And it would be used as probably the main registry right now, unless we wanted to build like multiple registry viewers. That it's like, hey, if you want an app, this is like kind of the one you want to look at. This is like curated by the association, basically.
Yeah, I think yeah, quality criteria is of course important. I think one other criteria could be also about the maintenance of the app, which say basically the association accepts to put application in the Aragon PM.eth registry when they acknowledge that somehow they're going to make it so that the app is maintained and okay, well, if fundraising is there and Aragon Black disappear for some reason or die or whatever, then we're going to make it so that this app is maintained somehow by another team or something because it's part of the stuff we want to maintain in the long run. And maybe if it's more of a small app, even though it's great, but It's more like, okay, this app has been done, but there is no guarantee of being maintained on the long run, stuff like that. Maybe it should not end up in this registry, I would say.
Yeah.
I like the bit on maintainability. But continue, someone else.
Sorry.
Was it you, Louis?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, no, just like to loop on what you have just said. I think it makes sense to implement a system, yeah, where we would have like a first set of apps that is kind of insured by the Aragon Association or the network, and then have subsets. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So, given that we're done with this second topic, I think we're done for today, and for this week. Then, we will see each other, guys, on the other side of the vote. Then, in 2 weeks. I hope that you guys have great time shipping in the meantime, and thanks a lot for joining today.
All right. Thank you, Louis.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye,
you.
everyone. Good luck for the
Bye.
vote.
Bye bye.
See you.